Great. Welcome back to another episode of the Value Stream Show. So today we wanted to talk about another twofold distinction in terms of value streams, and that's the differentiation or the distinction between core value streams and supporting value streams. In the last episode, we looked at the distinction between development value streams and operational value streams. Now, taking a different, distinct twofold division of value streams into core and supporting value streams. So Steve, do you want to get us started off with some?
Yeah, so I mean, we should probably dive straight into why this is complex and potentially problematic. And I think that, when we think about development and operation streams, we can see a clear delineation of when we think about also, we'll describe with core and supporting, there is a clear delineation, but then now we have four dimensions, right? We've got two sides opposite each other, but across two different ways of thinking about value streams. And so the first thing that I want to mention is that you really only have to follow any of these patterns and conventions if they serve you in the way that you think about and communicate about and work around value streams in your organizations. And we're not suggesting that you need to segment your organization in all of these different ways and carve up all of your value streams and label them, and everybody needs to use the same language. But obviously it does really help when you're using the same terminology. So the two other patterns that I like to talk about value streams in the context of is core and supporting. And core is somewhat self-explanatory in that it's core to the business. It's absolutely the reason why your customers pay you and what they expect you to deliver. And what they're looking for is maximum value. And in that sense, your core stream is typically pretty closely linked to a development value stream, right? It's the reason why you're moving ahead of your customers in many cases. You've differentiated moving ahead of your competition or differentiating from your competition is kind of your unique value proposition is delivered by your core value stream. And you might think of an example like, let's say, Netflix, the Netflix service, the experience of browsing movies would be a core value stream. So they structured a core value stream to deliver the Netflix web experience of browsing. I'll come back to Netflix. Netflix is off the top of my head, but I think it'll do for now. If we think about a supporting value stream as a contrast to a core stream, it's something that is facilitating the performance of a core stream. So what is making your core stream successful? What keeps it operating at its highest level of performance? Or what is adding necessary functionality or contributing capabilities that are necessary, but not necessarily differentiating, right? And I think of if we're thinking about a Netflix example, a support and value stream could be something like you could think of SRE, like site reliability engineering. So the team that works on keeping the platform up and running and responding to incidents is as a supporting or supportive value stream. They're going to be developing functionality and features that help them keep the site up and keep the site responsive and performant. That's kind of par for the course for the company. That's what customers expect. They're not paying for a service that stays up. They expect that. So what they're paying Netflix for is content They're paying for a excellent user experience. They're paying to be able to watch something quickly and watch the thing that they want to watch. So another example of kind of a supported value stream would be the platform team. So developing the backend platform that the Netflix suite of applications sits on would be a supporting value stream. You could also think of something like hiring new candidates or onboarding new hires as a supported value stream. Um,
Let me
and
repeat this back to you, make sure I've got
yeah,
the
let's not go too far into the weeds
same idea. So
before we recap.
one way I often think about this, I use different terminology to determine like what is really differentiating about your business versus what's non-differentiated. So what's differentiated about Netflix is, serving out content. What's non-differentiated is something that they may have to do, but it doesn't differentiate them from anybody else. And I thought about a very, very simple analogy for the individual person. So if I'm going to work, right, then if I spend 8 hours at work, that's the core value stream. I've showed up, in a sense, I've showed up. I'm trying to bring some benefit and so forth. But if I have to commute there to work and back, right, that's a supporting activity. It's a sort of a necessary cost that I've incurred. But one of the characteristics of this, supporting things is something you might decide to outsource or remove entirely. So working virtually, then I totally remove the commute, right? Or you outsource it to public transit. You sit on public transit and somebody else takes you there. It's not a key part of your job. It's something that has to get done. Not sure if that uh, was an inappropriate simplification, but just to sort of distinguish between, is this something that's really unique and distinctive to that business, and then, or is it something that just has to get done? And often in businesses we think about, okay, well, product development and product delivery, for example, that's a core function for every business. But things like accounting and HR and so forth are typically supporting functions. And then if you apply that to the value stream, you just take a similar mindset, right? Is this a value stream? Is it directly? So when you've identified a value stream, back to a couple of podcast episodes ago, how do you identify if you've got a value stream? If you've identified a value stream, okay, is this a value stream that is directly serving the needs of the business, helping to differentiate the business? Or is this a value stream that, yes, it's a value stream, it's a repeatable process, it's something we want to optimize and so forth, but it's around something that is secondary to what enables the business to survive. Is that a reasonable way of thinking about it?
Yeah, absolutely, and I appreciate that analogy. I think it's really well defined. One thing I guess it reminds me of is kind of the dark ages of digital transformation was when a lot of these organizations, I think, miscategorized their core and supportive streams without knowing it. They sort of outsourced technology wholesale. And that was not just the operations of their, printers and networking inside of buildings, things like their, VPN access for people who are um, working remotely, these kind of commoditized IT functions. They also wrapped up application development and service delivery under technology and outsourced that as well and said, we can get a development team at the other side of the world at fractions of, what it would cost us to develop applications in-house, because all they're really doing is giving us access to documents and different capabilities that digital platforms provide. I think underestimating the fact that collaboration and the ability to access and leverage digital capabilities inside of an organization is increasingly a core differentiator and an extremely tightly coupled to why your customers pay you, right? The value that your customers are getting is kind of a direct outcome of your ability to collaborate and deliver digital products and services
And
in
one
your
note when
unique
Steve says,
context.
when you say the dark ages of digital transformation, you mean like 10, 15, 25 years ago, but also continuing to the present day, right? And
Absolutely.
the example of outsourcing versus insourcing, I was super happy yesterday. I was in a conversation with somebody from a US manufacturer who said they were currently in the process of insourcing a lot of their software development activities, that traditionally they'd relied primarily on SI consultants, 80% versus 20% insourced, and they were moving towards a model of maybe 50-50, where basically they were recognizing that the incentive structures for a system integrator, onshore or offshore, whatever, are different from the incentive structures from an employee in the company, and you really need to be very careful and thoughtful about that. But I didn't mean to well, I did mean to interject, but apologies
Yeah,
for the
interject.
interjection at the same time.
No, that's great,
But
and I think that's a great point to emphasize. I think maybe the next thing that we talk about is the focuses of, or how we think about the differences between core and supporting teams in how they're treated. And I think that's the main aspect that sticks out to me, is like the main difference between core and supporting is the way that you sort of treat them, and not in a sense of, it's very easy to think of, a supporting value stream as a second class citizen, and they should be marching to the beat of the core value stream and subordinate to the core value stream. Um, and that is likely, unproductive and not the right way to think about things. You, if you go too far down the path of thinking about supported value streams as commoditized, potentially outsourced, um, driving to the bottom, focusing on efficiency and minimizing cost, then you reach a point where you're going to be sacrificing the success of your core streams. Um, and so I think it's important to understand core and supporting in terms of investment, right? I mean, obviously, you want to be investing um, a lot of innovation time and discovery time in a core stream in order to maximize that differentiation from competition and stay ahead of competitions. You want your core streams in a Wordly context to be closer to Genesis, right? Closer to customers as well. And there's always a possibility, I think, of outsourcing supporting value streams, given significant capability is available on the market, on the open market, right? So if you're able to outsource something and get the exact same service, right? I mean, if you're thinking about electricity, who you get your electricity from really doesn't matter. You're optimizing for cost, right? And obviously, um, operational performance. But and not everything is that commoditized, but there's a lot of organizations where they're thinking right now, and the case that is constantly present on my mind is platform engineering, right? We're in this era of platform engineering because we've hit a point with the technology and organizational topologies and operations, ways of working, where it's it's a legitimate, challenging decision for organizations about how they should treat their underlying technology platform, the platform that supports their digital product development. And there are a lot of really good players in the market. You can go to Amazon, you can go to Heroku, you can go to um, Google Cloud, and leverage a commoditized platform from them. You can also build customization on top of that as differentiation that fits your unique needs. Or you can also increasingly develop your own based on open source products or a combination of a commercial product that sits atop a commoditized cloud provider that is purpose built for developer productivity and performance and providing easy access to capabilities, right? And so I think thinking in terms of core and supporting streams in that context, um, what fits into a supporting value stream is really a matter of where you see your competitive advantage and where you want it to be, and how commoditized you sort of engineer your supported value streams will be a reflection of ultimately the performance of your core value streams, right? I mean, if your supported value streams are extremely capable, customized to your culture, and enable you to move as fast and effectively as possible, that has a very significant impact on the performance of your core value streams. And so um, I think this model of these two other ways of thinking about value streams is more strategic. It's more a tool for thinking about the strategy behind how you design your value streams in your organization. And it might be less valuable for identifying value streams as it is for defining the future of how your value streams operate and how you talk about the direction of that development.
And a couple of points you made. One is it's not to say that core value streams are important and supporting value streams are not important. Quite the opposite. But I think it does definitely help. It's important to make that distinction when you're trying to understand the impact that optimizations in those two value streams would have. And the supporting value stream is typically less sexy, so to speak. It's less it gets less attention typically than the core value stream. But I think the point that we're driving at is that there is a commonality and a similarity whenever you've got a linear set of processes that are executed to deliver something of value, whether it's facing end users and differentiating your company as a part of a and constituting a core value stream, or whether it's internal facing, constituting a supporting value stream. There is a similarity in that each of these are value streams. They can be optimized, they can be looked at in a similar way, they can be optimized in a similar way, and so forth. But you might need to sell the supporting value stream optimization a little bit harder. And to take an example of the developer platform, if you utterly, and because I don't know, maybe I'm just bitter, right? Typically, developers can be relegated to the basements and not getting the kinds of attention that things like sales get and so forth. But if you neglect development because it is a supporting function, you don't see that as critically important for your business because it is it's not directly enabling, and certainly because it's not directly enabling sales. So, for example, product development doesn't directly enable sales. Sales directly enables sales, right? So product development is secondary to sales from one point of view, even, although I think you and I would agree we should call it core development. But something like provisioning developer workstations or provisioning a developer platform or, optimizing, whatever the underlying tools and so forth, those things are several layers removed from actual customer revenue generating kinds of things. They're very, very much in the supporting camp, but they can make all the difference in the world, right? If your developers really have access to, optimized tools, those tools, are well built, they're well designed, they facilitate the creative workflow for those developers, then the benefit of that cascades out. And so, but because it's a couple layers removed from, for example, revenue generating functions, it may take a little bit more explaining to help to convey to others the importance of optimizing those value streams as well, just because because of that, because it's indirect.
Yeah, I like that. I like that differentiation, and I think that it's that point about intentionality, like being clear about what your organization looks like and how it operates, how it behaves, is easier when you've got these ways to segment your understanding and talk about um, value streams in different contexts to different audiences. Um, and it's this other aspect about, I think the flip side of the coin of um, intentionality is this aspect of neglect. Like the less you are intentional, the more likely you are to neglect or miss um, the needs of important segments of the organization, right? These interconnected nodes of the value stream network um, that can't operate in isolation, right? I mean, they're all sort of interdependent, and understanding that that is an ecosystem. Seeing the interplay between these core and supportive streams is, I think, really valuable for making the right types of decisions, understanding where you might get diminishing returns from investing in a specific way, or trying to run a specific value stream using the wrong model. And the wrong model being entirely contextual, right? The wrong model is basically um, doing the sorts of things that don't match up with the common understanding inside of your organization of what that stream, uh, how that stream should be operating, right? I mean, if everybody's agreed that this is a core stream and we are going to focus on development and innovation, that informs everybody's decision making and everybody can be on the same page. Likewise, if we say, this is a supported value stream, we're going to be making decisions that that highlight the improvements that can optimize that performance, or the performance of the value stream under that context. That means people are on the same page and people can discuss, okay, well, what if we um, like I'm on board with that, but I'd like to see development in these areas. I think that we can strive for efficiency, but I believe that there's innovation possible in this portion of the value stream, and I think we should not ignore that. So this, I think, all just brings us to better conversations and a better ability to kind of model the value stream network of an organization in order to make better decisions, have better conversations, craft a better strategy about evolving that system into a higher performing state.
And so I'd just like to close out with one point from a couple of episodes ago when we talked about differentiating value streams. By definition, a value stream always has a customer. But the customer can be external or internal. Typically, if the customer is external, typically what that means is it's a core value stream. You're actually delivering something to an outside party. If the customer is internal, typically that means it's a supporting value stream, and maybe that's a 100% clean distinction between those two. But in all cases, you can conceive of the value stream in a similar way. You're delivering value for some stakeholder, whether internal or external, and you still need to go through the same process. What is the value we're delivering? What activities are value-adding activities? What activities are non-value-adding activities? Where can we, reduce the waste that is inhibiting our ability to deliver value? Where we're putting in time and energy and waste and effort and so forth, but it's not actually yielding benefit. And really, every part of the business needs to be, well, ideally, all parts of the business would be engaging in continuous improvement and trying to optimize their process. And where you've identified these repeatable processes, you've got that are delivering value and serving a customer, you've got a value stream, and the methods for optimization, can be all of those, that we've covered in the past, value stream mapping, value stream management, and so forth. Whether it is directly external customer facing or internal customer facing doesn't matter. What we're really introducing here, as we've said in the previous episodes, these are all just logical constructs, but they are for the purpose of giving a language that is useful for the organization, so we can begin to use some of these common terms to understand what's actually happening, and make better decisions. So, Steve, thank you so much again for another great episode.
Thank you. Well said.